This is Chris from Nominee, and you're watching Beyond Static.
Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Static, the podcast introducing you to your next favorite band. I'm your host, D-Wayne. Follow Beyond the Static on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and TikTok at Beyond the Static Podcast. You can also join our mailing list and have these episodes sent straight to your inbox. If you enjoy the show and feel gracious, you can also buy me a coffee. If not, a like or comment on YouTube is much appreciated. A 5-star review on any platform would be awesome because, in the words of my hero, Bomani Jones.
Hey, it's good to see you, dude.
You too. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. It has. What's going on?
Well, just attempting to adult and do some creative things on the side.
Cool. Yeah, same, pretty much at this point.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
Um, I'm so happy we could finally get this together.
me too, man. Me too.
So you've been on my list of chats that I've wanted to have for a long time because well, honestly, the first time that I ever put out an episode of Beyond the Static, it was a different sort of vibe. It was more like a
hmm
play some music, talk about it a little bit, play some music, talk about it a little bit. And
Yeah,
Nominee was actually on the very first
I
episode.
remember. I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, dude, we were so stoked to have just anybody give a shit, man. It was super grateful for you, doing what you do and, trying to help out others along the way, man. Super cool. We were really grateful.
Well, thanks, man. And
Yeah.
yeah, that means a lot to hear. I mean now, like, for me, when I'm looking at you guys, I'm seeing, like, to me, I see like so much success happening, right? Like,
hmm
for for a while there, it actually got super hard to keep up with everything you were doing. Like, there were the tours, there were festivals opening for this band and that band, and just putting out so much music all of the time. Like, how are you keeping up with all of this stuff?
Well, I mean, honestly, it was so we were, running at those high RPMs for a long time, for probably like 4 years straight. Like we were just staying as busy as humanly possible. And then the pandemic. And we, when we kind of came back from that, our our resources had changed significantly. Um, a lot of people just kind of stopped with music. A lot of the people that were kind of corner helping us out in the beginning stopped doing what they were doing and kind of changed their trajectory during the pandemic. And we released Low Life like pretty early on into the reopening of like shows and like businesses and stuff. And I truly think that Low Life kind of got lost in there, that the album got lost in there. And it slowed things down for us like exponentially. Um, which is probably a good thing because I don't think that what we were doing and like the uh the kind of the speed that we were running at, I don't think it was sustainable for me. I think that I was kind of at my wit's end. I was like losing my mind a little bit. Just full of panic most of the time. Um, about everything or nothing, whatever, take your pick depending on the day. Um, and it like if we continued that trajectory, I don't know how I'd be doing right now. I don't know how I'd be doing right now. We needed to slow down um, to kind of give ourselves a break. And then, like, it just kind of like everyone joined new projects. So we are so much slower right now than we've ever been. Like we're writing. We've got some new music that I'm like really, really stoked on. Um, but like tour and everything with where everybody's lives are, I don't think Nominee is going to really be a touring band anymore, and it breaks my heart. And I think I'll eventually do something else that gets me on the road and that keeps me on the road. But where everybody is with Nominee right now, I don't think that's like top of mind or priority for really anybody. So I guess to answer your question, like in dealing, we weren't gonna deal with it. We weren't gonna like, we were just gonna keep up that speed for as long as we possibly could until the wheels fell off. And honestly, that's kind of what happened.
So I love that, you know, not just in like personal like interactions with you, but also like through your music. Like I know like mental health is a huge thing for you, right? And for me too. Right now I talk about it a lot, like being in recovery. Like I was out there being wild for for a hot minute. I had
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
so like that slowing it down is is a very personal like kind of like that touches on it. Um
I think for a
so
lot of people,
yeah,
I think a lot of people.
one thing that I've noticed like about your lyrics too, and which I love about how you write is the things you're saying seem very matter of fact, right? Like there's not a whole lot of like we're gonna be poetic here. It's like, nah, this is what's happening. This is the story, and this is how it's relatable. Like tell me a little bit what's going through your mind when you're sitting down to like write a song and how that process goes for you.
So it normally just comes from like an internal thought. A lot of the times intrusive, because like the way we talk to ourselves, especially in those moments, like you're not really gonna get. I mean, for me, and it's a trait I'm not like super proud of, but in those moments, you're typically not going to get a lot of positivity from. And those negative, intrusive thoughts are oftentimes, uh, you know, what needs to come out. And if I feel like that intrusive thought, or whether it's intentional or not, but if I feel like that thought is original at all, I'll want to kind of elaborate into it, or elaborate on it. And a lot of the times that's not even really intentional. I'm like kind of just kind of go down a rabbit hole. So myself like, what the fuck did I just say to myself? And kind of go from there. And it's a lot of the lines and a lot of the songs I've written are just straight up thoughts that found their way onto paper. Um, and it's something that I'm like I've tried and tried and tried to get better about, because I know that that's like the exact type of negative energy that you don't want to feed something like bipolar disorder or borderline personality or whatever. But oftentimes it does assist in the writing. It gives me something to feel interested about. You know what I mean? And that can sometimes also take my mind off of what's going on. Or inverse, help me process what's going on. Um, so the moment songs where I do like try to be a bit more poetic are, with like the use of like metaphor and simile, I that shit is truly like the intrusive stuff. Like you're the eggshells under my feet. Like I literally said that to my wife, like uh in a matter of words. But if it weren't for my poor mental health, writing songs would be a lot harder. It would be a lot harder, honestly.
It's funny that you say that because I find so much positivity in in the things that you say, right? And
Yeah, I get
honestly,
that, I guess.
yeah, and honestly, I'll say at least like your first like two EPs, two or three, got me through some really tough times. And I think so it's one of those things where for a lot of the reputation that like the genre of music that we are really into, or that we came up with gets for being like negative. I think there's a lot to be said about having someone knowing that someone relates and someone knows what
Absolutely.
you're feeling.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of like, even though that's a really good point. Almost that's like kind of transcendent, because you take these negative thoughts and these things that are like pushing me to the edge. I put them on paper, and I feel so alone when I do it, but in doing so, it reaches someone that might understand what I'm trying to say, and that becomes a connection and a positive thing. So, dude, that's honestly, I've never really thought of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, and I get that a little bit too with being in like 12-step programs and 12-step meetings is when you go and drop something that is like really weighing on you and you put it in a way that like you try to describe it in the best way that you can when you don't even understand really what's going on, and then having someone come back to you and be like, "Yo, that really helped me," or "I never really was able to find the words to that." Like, that's important. Do you feel that too? Because it's like y if it's like you're finding the words you found the words that someone else was struggling to say.
Sure, sure. And I don't really think about it that way, but I do, like, very consciously think, like, has this been said before? Because if it's been said before, it won't resonate the same way. If, bands in the early 2000s, I feel like every band was using the line something about something, something hard on my sleeve. Trying to say, like, I show my emotions. And like, I feel like so many bands were using that line. And I just feel like there are other ways that you can say that that might make someone think that they're not alone, because if they heard that line that's been overused a dozen times, it stops hitting the same. And then if you put something out there that's original and unique and says, it can contain a similar message but said differently, to resonate closer with someone who's looking for that type of outlet or that type of connection. um I think it betters your odds at reaching somebody who might need to be reached. I don't know if that makes sense.
I Yes. So I'd say one of the things that really like when you guys first like dropped like that two song single, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'd say that time, right? It was very few bands that were keeping me like sort of connected to music, and I find like around 2012, 13, I sort of like started fading away a little bit from it because pop punk in particular, right? I would
Sure.
find a lot of bands like I would like be like, "Oh, this new band, like let me check them out, let me check them out." And a lot of bands were like, "Dude, like I've heard this song 1,000 times before, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the thing that sucks about it is like now I'm going back and listening to some of the things, and I realize that like I really missed out on a lot like of like really awesome bands. Like I'm finding like for example, like State Champs, for example. I'm just like, dude, why
Sure.
was I
Yeah.
listening to this a long time ago? Or like
Yeah. And those first two records are great, man. I like that band a lot. I think that all of their records are very good, but man, those first two around that era specifically, I think that was like the golden era of that band. But I also did the same thing, dude. I also did the same thing. I didn't go back and listen until now, like almost 10 years later.
yeah,
You
there
know,
was
I had
one
to
band
dive
in
back in.
particular. I think they were called In Reverie. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yo, like why? And the funny thing is actually so on YouTube Music, like it just starts suggesting songs when you're done like listening
Yeah,
to
yeah.
an album. And it came up after I was listening to one of your albums. I was like,
And no shit.
bro, like where have I been with all of this? So like it's not like I don't know, like it seemed a lot easier back in the day and like, before you moved down to Texas and all.
Mhm.
Or maybe we were just more active because like you didn't have to be as like I could actually be like, yeah, I'm not going to work on Friday because I want to
Yeah.
go see this show instead
Yep.
of I have to go to work on Friday because that's when I make all of my money as a
Yeah.
server. and and you know, I don't want to live with my mother or be
Yeah.
homeless. So
I got it, man. Totally. And I think that's probably it's probably what did it, and like it's a lot harder to find stuff now, in my opinion. I have a way harder time finding stuff, not only because I'm busier, but because like I've got to really connect with something to listen to it and to like to to grab onto it and to hold on to it. Like so not only is it am I busier and it's harder to like find new music, I'm not going to shows 5 times a week anymore. uh I have more refined taste than I ever did, I think. And I
y-
don't think that's necessarily like a good thing, uh because I'm doing a disservice to myself, probably letting a lot of music slip through the cracks.
well, I mean, some would say that like that refined taste means that like you're just like letting a lot of crap go through and like you're actually just finding and settling on something that's
True.
really because like sometimes you'll go back and I can't tell you like even back in the like the days when we were buying CDs before everything was streaming, how many times I'd be disappointed because I'd buy a full length record and be like, there are four good songs on this, and you could have
Yeah.
made this an EP and moved on with
Yep.
your life. And now people are doing that and just like
Hmm.
putting out, and it's like, it's great. It's like hit them with a few songs. If they don't hit, then like just try
We'll
again.
go on to the next one. Yeah.
But
I,
also, so I find when I was like younger, right, and a lot of bands kind of change, like after a few albums, they kind of change their sound a little bit, or they try
mhm.
something new. I was always like, dude, like, they're like 30 now. They're older. They're not the same. So of course, like something will change in their music a little bit. Like now that we are kind of at that stage where it's kind of like, I'm not gonna I might like go in and dance at an emo night and sing along to like Hawthorne Heights, but it definitely doesn't relate to like someone in their late 30s the way that it did when I was 19.
Totally. Totally. It's a different thing now. It's a different thing now. And I wonder, like, are those, I guess they are. I just don't know them. I don't see them. But are, like, my question is, like, are kids that young going to shows like this now? I don't see them. I don't see them. Austin's an older crowd, for sure.
So I know in Philly, like there's quite a few like basement show kind of like house show kind of like venues.
Okay.
Um, and it's different though, because like I can say like with what I'm doing, trying to get like like shows there. It's like maybe it's like I'm the old guy now because like I don't even get responses from half of these people when I'm like, hey, I'd love to come through and like you know, it's just like I guess it's akin to like us in the 90s and like early 2000s and then like versus like the 70s and 80s. It's like their world is different, so their issues are different, so the things that they connect to are different. And
Certainly.
I think maybe the way they communicate is different because like from what I know of being around and especially being around the like the recovery crowd, like the feelings are universal, right?
Sure. Sure.
So I wonder where that disconnect comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder. I wonder. Um, God, I just like it makes me wonder if like if it has something to do with because it's not like I'm like an angry old man shouting, at the sky because kids don't like my band. That I don't care. If people want to listen to my band, great. People don't want to listen to my band, great. Don't really care. But what I don't get is that I go to shows here and it's so like if I go to like a bigger show, if I go to like a bigger hardcore show, it's in such an older crowd and I'm not touring anymore, so I don't have the perspective to see what other markets look like. And I'm wondering if it has something to do with the algorithms, and it's not like the shows that are coming to these cities, if they're targeting an older crowd because that's what the demographic kind of is here, and if it looks different in another city. I guess that's more of what I'm wondering now, and that's just more of like an internal thing. I'm just so curious.
Yeah. I think too it might have something to do. All right. So maybe because I'm older not seeing it, like it doesn't feel like kids are starting like bands and like going out and like cuz like it's we had to go to shows, right? And like bands had to play shows and all of this stuff. Now everything seems to be like I feel like a lot of the popular music that I hear is like clips on TikTok, right? That
Yep.
kind of go and then the song goes viral and like you never really hear the full song and there was a it's kind of gone back to reverted back to this like sort of 1950s era where like they would they would show up to do like a single on a TV show on like you know the
Hmm.
Ed Sullivan show or something rather than putting out like a full album. It's like, oh, here's a single, go do your single somewhere. Because like for us, like I feel like people tried to write albums and put out albums, and
Yeah,
albums matter so much, like to I'd say I can speak for myself. Like the album is such an art form to me. And now like
I agree.
it's all about the single and even like so I mentioned Hawthorne Heights before, right?
Hmm.
I used to think that they're like these guys are like they can write a single. They can write a
Sure. Yeah.
single. But I've struggled to find a Hawthorne Heights album that I could listen to like all the way through and be like,
Sure.
"Oh, I love this." But then when they go on tour, it's like, "Okay, you have 5, 6 singles to play me and then maybe like throw some other stuff in there." Right?
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
But like Newfound Glory, I just went and saw Catalyst, the entire album front to back, and it was just like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
I get it. I get it. I'm wondering, like, I still think like iconic albums are still coming out, and I think the the quest of writing a record that you're proud of through and through, front to back, is still going to be there for every artist. I think for every artist, I think the music industry slowing down how often we do that is going to limit the amount of times that we see that in our lives now. So I think we've just got to be more grateful for the ones that are coming out, the ones that really do hit front to back, you know? Um, like right now, the only one that's coming to mind for me is that Sabrina Carpenter record. But like it's there is not a miss on that record. Every song is good. Every song is good. It is so concise in themes and lyricism. And like she's one of the biggest artists out there right now. So what I'm saying is that if someone whose uh whose life is that busy and chaotic, like a Sabrina Carpenter or a Taylor Swift or a Lil Nas X, can still write a record that is perfect from front to back, the little guys have time to do it too.
Yeah,
You know?
so it's funny you mentioned Sabrina Carpenter because I've been hearing her name a lot, and I can't honestly say that I could pick a song of hers out of either. Uh and it's my fault though too, because like we have ever since like streaming music and like MP3 players became a thing, I'm going to listen to what I know is going to hit. Like
Sure,
I'm that guy that's become like I'm listening to brand new, I'm listening to the forecast, I'm listening to like my chem and the Fall Out Boy albums that I like. Like, you know what I mean?
sure.
Uh but
I'm guilty of that like just kind of uh I stay in the past. I definitely kind of live there in terms of my taste. But for the most part, especially pop music, I think is in one of the best eras it's ever seen. So I've like latched onto a little bit of that recently.
yeah, I have some friends who are Swifties, so like I've gotten the day she dropped that double album, I got a heavy dose of that album. And
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, like I'm a fan. Like the girl, she puts out some bops and you know, actually one of the things that really made me like kind of dig in more was when she got won the Time Person of the Year. I walked
totally.
into work and like people were like going off about it, and they were some like a lot of my coworkers were mad about it because um one of them is a huge Beyonce fan, so no matter what Taylor Swift does, like he's gonna be like, "Oh, but Beyonce," and then like this one girl was talking about how like SZA should have been personally. I was like, "Are you fucking like Taylor Swift has like affected legislation
Yep,
in
yep,
Congress. Like no other artist has done that. Like yeah, like Ye might write a she did that while writing like an instant classic album, double
yeah,
album and do it like she's doing things that no one else has done before.
yep.
And it's funny to see like it kind of lets you know that no matter what you do and how like and even things that like have nothing to do with you, like there's going to be haters. And I haven't seen in my lifetime, we've seen some things I haven't seen in my lifetime, an artist affect the country as a whole politically like the way that she has.
Agreed, agreed. I mean, there are artists that, like you said, have affected in one way or another legislation, like Pearl Jam and REM in the '90s when before Congress. Uh, I think in protest of and they affected the way that that was governed for a little bit. I don't know what happened in the meantime because it's worse than ever now.
I'm sorry. Say that last part again. What were they protesting? I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. The prices of concert tickets.
Oh.
The prices of concert tickets in the
Yeah.
90s. In the 90s when Ticketmaster, and there was another one that was like Ticketmaster, like a distribution company. When they took over and started adding like the fees and everything, and the ticket prices shot through the roof for shows, they went in front of Congress and they were like, "We can't do this. It's like doesn't have legs. The longevity, you're going to take that from us. Like you need to do something and make it more affordable for people to go to shows, or else we're not going to have careers anymore." Um, and it worked, and there was some sort of change in governance that helped those smaller acts. But I mean, like I said, it's worse than ever now. With the I forget what Ticketmaster calls their like flexible pricing. Depending on if the event is super popular, then the tickets are just more expensive. Nuts. It's what
Yeah.
I mean. Tickets for Taylor Swift going for $15,000. Just insane.
Dude, I have a friend who, um, and I've heard this story so many times. It was, and I feel it's a uniquely American thing because she was able to buy a flight to London and a hotel room and the ticket to the show, all for less than she would have been paying for one ticket here in the US.
And then you get that entire vacation for the price that you would have wanted to go to a single show for. It's absolute bullshit. American communism, American capitalism is fucking repulsive.
Yeah, it is the actual worst thing in the world.
Don't get me started there. Oh no.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. Um, but yeah, so we're getting a little bit low on time, but
I got you.
we have two options. We can like push through these next like 7 minutes, or we can restart um we can restart the link when it runs out. I got the free version of Zoom
Whatever.
because until I'm doing this like regularly enough, like it's kind of,
Totally. I get that, man. I get that 100%.
But like,
Uh, Whatever you want to do.
okay. Um, I'll just say that I've been wanting to have this conversation with you ever since South by Southwest when I came to visit and
I
we
had
were
such a good time, man.
yeah,
Such a good time. Yeah.
and we were outside of one of the venues that you were playing like a nighttime show, like an arcade or something like that.
Hmm.
And we were just like it was like me, you, and Steve just in a van just chatting for like an hour. And I feel like that's when I really got to know you. Uh
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree
because
with that. It filled me with regret for not getting to know you before I left.
dude, same. Like I it's same because I know like I've known you since off that throwback, like I've known you since the Fairview, since you were in the band
Yeah,
Fairview.
2006, 2007, dude. Yeah, we go back.
Yeah. And
And yeah, man, it's sorry. I just want to get this out before you say what you're gonna say, because when I left New Jersey, I had all this misplaced faith in so many of my friends who I thought were my friends, and I, I have very few relationships up there that I continue to keep up with. Um, and there were a handful of people up there who I was always like, that person gives me warm energy. That person gives me like comfort. That person seems like they're a good person. And my social anxiety would prevent me from making like the first move to kind of build on that relationship. And when I moved, all those people that I put all my heart and soul into, our friendships, disappeared. I've had uh, like two friends visit the entire time I've been here. Like I've been here for 11 years now, and I've had two people from New Jersey come down to visit. And although you weren't coming down to hang with me, I learned from that trip, like with Rudy and Adam and you, I was just like, I need to trust my gut in what I see in people from now on. Because you and me, like, we're not best friends or anything, but we talk more than most of the people that I grew up with for 20 years up there, and it's just because I see that humility and that human inside of you. And that trip truly changed my perspective in how I want to go about making friends.
Wow.
Legitimately, dude.
That means a lot. And I had the same experience, like, and honestly, like it's the same with you. Like I have friends that I've been friends with for like 30 years now, and I it's just like we don't talk as much as I would like to. And and it's easier to have this conversation than it is sometimes to like kind of like catch up with them and like have,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
they're like right across the river, but I
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
experienced that feeling a couple other times, like in when I left New Orleans. um I think like a handful of people have kept in touch, and they're like half my friends list on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
When
Yep.
and when I got sober, dude, like nobody, no,
It,
like all of those people, I was like, oh, these are my friends. And like, you got sober. It's just like, wait a minute. Like, and
yeah, man.
then I learned, honestly, like when I tried to go back and hang out with them, I was like, wait a minute, I don't like you. I like drinking and you happen to be there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, dude. I feel like with the rate that people are, I don't know if it's happening up there, and we might go over time now. I'm sorry if we get cut off, but with the rate that people are getting sober, like I think that's becoming such a classic story. People are really finding out who their friends are in that process.
Yeah. And not just that, but like the friends who still try to like get you to come off of that.
Ooh.
To I had a friend who like I thought he was a friend, but now I'm just like, yo, fuck that dude. Because
Not your
he
friend.
like,
Yeah.
no, I went specifically to like see that dude like at one point, and he like got mad at me and kicked me out of the bar that he was bartending at because I wouldn't drink alcohol. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? So
Hell no, dude.
I got into a lot of the music like later on when it started like getting a little bit more accessible, because I grew up very, very poor. Like we didn't have, well, like by American standards, I'd say. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
like I didn't have a computer in my house until like shit, I was 19, so like it's that 2004. Um,
yeah. We got ours. I was probably like a sophomore or a junior in high school, like 16 or 17.
yeah, and like obviously, my older siblings weren't into the same kind of music that I'm into.
Hmm.
Uh, so it kind of found me a little bit later, but like, when it did, like it grabbed me, like,
Yeah,
and I remember, think 2003 was that year that I was just like so many classic albums dropped that year. Yeah,
yeah,
Dejan Tendu. We had War
yeah.
All the Time.
Both of which leaked early, and a friend of mine got me a copy of Deja, like feels like it was months before it came out. and it had different vocals on it.
Ooh,
Like it had like they had either remixed or retracked vocals, and all of like the screams didn't have like harmony behind them or melody behind them. They were just screams, and it was like a way different record because of that.
interesting.
Um, oh, and same thing with "Let It Enfold You" by Senses Fail.
Huh.
Yeah, I had both of those records with differently tracked vocals before they came out. So when they came out, I was like, this isn't this isn't I was like like mad when like actually it's probably better how it is, you know. I was just like,
Right.
this isn't what I heard, like angry, 16-year-old.
I think so Panic at the Disco, I heard a few tracks before I heard the full record, and then I got the tracks and I was just like, this isn't the same. So I think like there might have been some like leaking of like
Yeah,
early mixes before records
totally.
got all the way done. Um so
Yeah,
I
I think you're probably right.
I remember Sleep In, um they uh they put out when they put out why am I settling?
Yeah,
Like they like I,
that record's awesome.
just knowing those dudes and like having like I was in a band with Joe before he was in Sleep In, and
Yeah,
I heard the songs and I was just like then I heard the album and they left off the one song that I was just like, you guys left off your hit single. Like, what are you doing?
yeah, it's
There was the
crazy,
one song where I
crazy.
was just like, it's like to this day, it's still my favorite Sleep In song, and like
What song?
nobody knows about it.
Is it out? Did they ever put it out?
I don't think so. Um,
What the
because
fuck?
it was with Keith. So,
Oh, got it.
fuck. I
Got it.
remember it's like, now I'm uncomfortable. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, but I chose the
Mm.
world, so I won't think about the girl.
Oh my
It's like,
God. I remember them. I think I remember them playing it.
yeah. And like, I don't, they never released it. And I like to this day, I have it somewhere. Like, I make sure that I keep that song somewhere because
Somewhere safe. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I've
somewhere
lost a
safe.
couple hard drives and a bunch of stuff. Do you know how hard it was for me to find um there's this band called Another Day Late, and they have one EP out. And it's called News
Oh
Says It's
man.
Raining in New York. And for whatever reason, it was scrubbed from the internet for so long. And like 3 weeks ago,
Ah,
it came out, like I found it
no
through
way.
YouTube. So I saved the playlist and whatever, like,
You
and
ripped
I
that
went
shit.
in, yeah, and I ripped it to an MP3. I'm like, you guys aren't doing this to me again. Because
I don't blame you.
when
I
the
don't
powers
blame
that
you.
be find this album and take it down, like I'm still gonna have it. Like, fuck all that.
Honestly, that band probably respects the shit out of that move too.
Yeah.
They're probably like, hell yeah, this guy is an actual fan.
Bro, I've been like, I was leaving messages on their like Facebook and stuff, like, yo, what's going on? Like, where can we find this?
Hell yeah. You're probably part of the reason that they put it out. That's awesome, man.
I like to think so.
Do you remember that band Attention Attention?
I remember the name. Yeah.
Okay. We played a shit ton of shows with them. Uh, and their music doesn't exist on the internet. And their guitarist recently hit me up with a link, and it's just a SoundCloud to all their music. And I was like, oh shit. And I like went down the
Nice.
rabbit hole and I was like, God damn, these kids are 17. This shit is awesome.
Oh wow. You know,
Yeah.
I met the band The Main.
Hmm.
I interviewed them when they were all still like 17 and 18, like,
Holy shit.
but when I was on the radio in South Jersey,
Hmm.
like, uh, it's kind of what the first time that I realized that people with talent and like a little bit of fame have different lives. because the one dude was 17, their drummer is 17, and he was telling the story on the radio for the county to hear.
For the world to hear, sure.
Yeah, that somebody was back in like Arizona taking his finals for him in high school.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, and at the time I was like 22, and I was just like, bro, like, why don't I have that life?
Like, fuck you, dude. I want that life. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want
yeah,
someone else to do the hard shit for me.
right, right. Well, fortunately for me, and yeah, I'm gonna brag a little bit. School wasn't really that hard for me. I mean,
That's
like
lucky.
the 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 act of like homework and stuff was like I didn't do that, but um I was one of those people that liked going to school because I always like learning. Like, I don't
Mhm.
like having to do the work that comes around learning, like doing homework. Like, I'll take a test, whatever. I like learning. It's why when I went to college, I have more than enough credits to have a degree, but I don't have a degree because those credits are all over the place. So I was like,
Ah, got
I,
it.
I'm taking the classes that I want because I want to learn these skills,
Yeah,
right? And and my friends were always like I was always friends with like pretty smart kids and like pretty good kids. So it's like even if I was in trouble, like the times I got suspended, I was so bored because all my friends were in school because they weren't,
sure.
because they weren't getting
Yeah.
into trouble. Like, and I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like
Man,
being in school because that's where my friends were.
sure. Yeah. And I think I liked like being with my friends at school, but I didn't have many of them. So I like was pretty reclusive and I would like not, I didn't have like a terrible high school experience, but I didn't have a good high school experience. And I just like it's so hard for me to look back fondly because I just like I hated being there. I hated being there. And like I didn't realize how much I liked learning until I was an adult. I'm like riddled with learning disabilities. So I'm like that shit was really, really hard for me. Hard for me to grasp anything. And now like being, 38, I'm like especially if I'm like slightly interested in something, I know how I have to file things in my brain for it to make sense. So I wish I could go back and do high school with the perspective that I have now for that reason, for the learning, but the social aspect, I wish never to be a part of anything like it ever
I feel that. I feel that. And so you went to a really big high school, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
You
Yeah, I
went
went to Eastern.
Yeah. So
Yeah, the regional high school is huge.
I went to a tiny high school. I went to
Okay.
Woodbury. So it was a little different, and like I wouldn't say that I was friends with everybody or that I had like a lot of friends. I wasn't like the popular kid. I didn't really get like invited to parties or whatever. But
Yeah.
like my friends, like my closest friends were like popular. It was a weird dynamic, and I was just kind of like this offshoot friend, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
But like I would hang out with them a lot, and but like I got along with a lot of people. Like we were cool. Like I played sports, I was in the band, so it was like I got along with people and I knew people. Like I'm pretty like conversational, kind of like happy go lucky. I mean, like my job is serving and talking to people all the time.
Sure.
So like it wouldn't be a lot of people that I would like hang out with or like or call up outside of school or anything like that. But like there was enough of you're cool, like y'all have a conversation with you to that. And also like I think one of the things too that really draws me like to music and one of the things that was that like that conversation I was talking about in the van that like really kind of brought me like you and I like more into each other's orbits is I enjoy hearing people's stories.
Sure.
Like
Same.
I want to know about people. Like I want to know and because I realized something a while back, like when I would talk to people, or tell them like my life, and sometimes people would look at me like I was like, sometimes people would be like, "That's awesome." Sometimes people would be like, "Are you okay?" And like
Yeah, yeah.
to me, like my life is boring and like simple but like you know, I realize that like to other people who haven't lived that life, it could be very interesting, right?
Fair.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure that other
Absolutely.
people feel that way. Like they're telling me, saying, "Oh, I just do this and I just do that." I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? That's the most awesome thing that I've heard in weeks." You
Yeah,
know?
truthfully, yeah. I mean, like, but I have an incredibly boring job right now. Like, I work at a warehouse for all intents and purposes. But my wife is she does like she wears a lot of hats in uh like production and film production, and like some days she'll get offers for she like does like art department like set stuff a lot of the time, like that's her bread and butter. But when it's like slow and she's not getting offers, she'll do like PA stuff, and like why not? It's still like it's the coolest job. You're still on that setting, you're still on set, why not? And like while those days feel boring to her, in comparison to what I'm doing, they sound so interesting.
Right.
So it is just like where to place your perspective, I guess.
Yeah, like I knew this girl. I was like, I asked her. She was like, "Oh, I just work for a nonprofit, and like, I find people like jobs." I was like, "That's actually like really cool job," and like
Yeah,
to her, it's like the most boring thing in the world, right? And I think
sure, sure.
that's one of the things I've been afraid of is and I think that's one of the reasons like why when I started like I really wanted to play music a lot and be around music a lot because I was just afraid of like being boring. But like at what point do you think that like I know for people like you and I, like it's a privilege. It feels like a privilege to be able to like get out and play shows and like write music and write things.
100%.
What do you think that there's a point where like it just feels like a job to some people and it just gets monotonous
Certainly.
and boring?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Like I can't imagine feeling that way. Um, but I think that's because at this point I just know it about myself because I've never had like textbook success. I've never made money from playing music. So it's never been able to be like a job. But in like especially in I call fives, it would occupy, you know, 200, 250 days a year. So that is a job, and that is incredibly hard. And like there's nothing in the world more rewarding to me. And so now at this point, I've done it. It's been a couple years. It's been 2 years since I've toured. Nominee hasn't toured in 2 years, but like I put all of my effort into it and all of my energy into it and didn't see any sort of like material reward from it. I didn't never got paid from it, whatever. But I still wanted to keep doing it. And there are people who have everything that they need from it and don't want to do it. It's like, give me your fucking job, you know?
Right. Dude, and even like at this point, like even the fact that you got to tour, like you were in a band that like made it that far. I don't think enough people realize how incredibly like it sounds easy and theoretically like it can be easy. I don't
Hmm.
think people know how hard it is to even get to that point.
I
Um,
agree.
just
It's
in
the hardest part, in my opinion.
Yeah, but like just dealing with the personalities and like keeping like your band together. Like I never got to tour. And that's one of my like I'm so jealous of that. And I still like in the back of my mind, like maybe one day. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that
Dude, if I ever end up on anything again, we'll talk about this when we're done. But if I ever end up on anything again, I got you, dude.
oh dude, I I don't know if you know how hype that just made me. But yeah, dude, I was I was kind of like heartbroken too, like when like two guys that I wasn't a band with, like when they went their separate ways and then like they went on tours and I was just like, y'all couldn't do this with me.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that, man. I do. It's akin to like I call fives doing like my wife and I were talking about this yesterday. It's top of mind, and like I call fives did uh like a co-headliner with We Are the Union in 2010. Might have been 2011, actually, now that I think. Uh, and the support for that tour was the story so far.
What?
Yeah. And they weren't on until the California dates. And we got to California, and this band was drawing like 500 kids, and we were like, "What the fuck?" Like there have been like 100 kids tops at all the other shows, and they're like they're have a legitimate like fucking craze about them from that record, um, the one from 2011, Under Soil and Dirt. And we get to like some of like the more B markets outside of California, and the crowds die off, and we're like, okay, like that makes sense for them to have that crowd there. And then we get to the East Coast, and the crowds are just as big for them, and we were just like, holy shit, this band literally just blew up in front of our eyes. And I always like hoped that that a project that I was in would see that type of organic growth. Like that was pre-algorithm. That was like they were one of the last bands to do it before Spotify kind of had a say in who was going to see success.
Dude, so
Um,
oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, 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 no. So let me cap off what I guess I'm the point that I'm trying to make here is that I like going back to your point, like you're in these projects with people and they go on and they do things that you see as like these really like cool and important things. They might not see it that way. And like I sometimes wonder, and I didn't really keep up with those dudes. Um, or to be perfectly honest, they didn't keep up with me. Like I wouldn't have kept up with me either at that point, probably, like, but like I do wonder if they see what I see as their privilege the same way that I do.
I
Like
so
their luck and their not luck, that their success. I wonder if they look at their success the same way that I do. Like I wonder if they're as appreciative as someone like me who has now tried it and done it for 10 years. Um, all told, would those people appreciate that success the same way? I wonder.
See, and it's funny that you say that because I was just thinking like you're saying that about them and like I'm thinking the same way about like I call fives, right? And like one of the shows, like one of the last shows that I got to play um when I was in the coastline was with I call fives. I don't know if like at Fusion in Cherry Hill.
Oh my God, fusion.
And so honestly, like
Was I in the band?
yeah,
I was.
yeah.
I don't remember playing Fusion with Icall Fives. That's crazy.
I
But continue. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no. And like honestly, one of the reasons it took me so long to ask for this interview is I think there was another band between Fairview and I Call Fives for you, right? Am I
Hmm.
tripping?
Yeah.
What?
Uh, the Crosstown rivalry.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it. Okay, I was blank. I was like, I know there was another one,
Yeah.
and like between at least between those two bands, right? Like to me, you had that success, right? Like when I think Chris McLelland, I think of like a kind of like local Philly legend, like on the music scene. Like, you know what I mean? Like
That's
to
incredibly
me,
flattering.
you
That's
were
really
like you are a big deal.
cool. That's really cool, man. That's I mean, it's crazy that that scene kind of perpetuates that that mindset. Because I same thing, same thing. I look at the dudes from like Days Away, and I'm like, fucking those dudes. Like those are the guys. Those are legends. I look at Brett Smidley from Girls, 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 and I'm like, that guy is a legend. You know, Mikey Hines from Girls, Girls, Girls. That guy's a legend. You know, like, and like while they didn't have like monetary success from their music ventures, I will always see them as like legends, you know, like the way that they impacted me, I guess.
Yeah. You
That's
never
it. And yeah, that music scene, I just think like, how could you not have that mindset growing up around people like that, you know?
Yeah, and like seeing some of the bands I know you're talking about, like watching them kind of like blow up in front of your eyes, like you remember the band Major League, like they went on,
Yeah,
they did some pretty cool stuff.
they did some crazy shit.
Dude,
Yeah.
me and my buddy Joe, like we were booking shows like back at the time. I think you might have had Crosstown on the show, but like Major League, like we booked their very first show was a show that I booked.
Oh no shit. Where?
Yeah. At the that the little green tavern in like Sicklerville started with a T.
Ah, God, what was that place called? But yeah, we did play.
The guy's name was Tommy. He was the bartender and he would like always hook us up. Damn, I can't remember the name of that venue.
I think that was the only show we played there. I think
Yeah,
that was the only show we ever played. No, I think Fairview had played there before.
like I remember because like Joe and I we were both DJs on WDBK, like the local
Yeah,
college
yeah,
station. And we were like, dude, like we've always wanted to do this. So like we just started like putting together shows and like we've had some pretty cool bands like play and like yeah, like so and it's funny because like my one of my best friends, like one of the guys I was telling you about, I've been friends for 30 years. He was like, hey, I know you're booking a show. My buddies, um, well, this I work with this lady and her son's in a band called Major League. Like, you want to check them out? Like and I was like, yeah, sure. And like
Oh my
I
God.
put him in. It was like it was their singer at the time, and I don't even think he remained their singer for the whole time. But like
Mm-mm.
yeah, I was like, yeah, sure. And then like next thing you know, like they're like on TV and like they're like the Phillies theme song and shit.
Yeah, that
The
was crazy, dude.
fuck?
Yeah, I guess that was 2000 and was that had to have been 2008 because that was during the playoffs. It was either in 2008 or 2009. Might
Yeah,
have been 2009.
it was around that time. Yeah.
Um, and if I remember correctly, uh, they they had like MTV2 or MTVU circulation,
Yeah.
and their video from I think it's from I forget the name of the song, but one of their videos was in rotation on one of those, and I was like, God damn, this band's like really doing it. Um, Brian the guy, the guitarist, songwriter, and the guy who became the lead singer of that band is actually on tour with Emarosa right now. With
Really?
yeah, with his solo project.
Nice. I remember I did keep in touch with him for a little bit, like conversationally, like, say hi, bumping into each other at shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Good dude. He's a
Yeah.
good dude. Him and I go back a long, long time. Long, long time. Back to the Franklinville VFW days.
I never got to see a show there, but
Oof,
yeah.
man, it was rough.
You
It
know
was
what?
rough.
It was started out cool, but then I ended up like not really caring for it. Is Skater's Choice.
Yeah, yeah,
Some of those shows were rad, but then like they started doing like the tough guy hardcore thing, and I was like,
yeah.
no,
All the fake gangs would show up and beat each other up
yeah,
during easy core shows. You nerds.
right. It's like, no, I'm not about that.
But the thing is that like, it, not for nothing, easy core was simultaneously stepping on their toes because they were already there. They were just going to the hardcore shows. Those dudes were just going to the hardcore shows. And then these pop punk bands started playing breakdowns, and that, like, of course those dudes are probably going to show up. You know what I mean? And like start fights and shit. And at the time, like Crosstown was kind of like, because Crosstown was like an easy core band. We had like breakdowns and stuff, and we were like, hell yeah. We were like, whatever about it. But in retrospect, I'm like, man, it was probably really alienating to people who just wanted to see the music,
Yeah, dude. Because I would see
you
bands
know?
like Houston Calls there, and I saw like the Receiving and the Sirens there. What, like, you
Yeah,
know
I
what I
remember
mean?
that.
Oh, that I remember the first time I saw them. They're like, that was my mind was just blown. I was just like, that's what I've always wanted to hear, and that's what I've always wanted to do.
We played with them on tour earlier in that year in New Hampshire. It was crazy.
Dude,
Crazy. That
see,
band so goddamn good.
you just added another like you just added another notch to the legend belt.
It was one of the most memorable shows I think I've. I was like, maybe because it was Fairview. It was Fairview, if I remember correctly. Uh, Definitely was Fives. And I just remember being like, this is what a real band sounds like, you know,
Right.
having that realization.
You know, this is what I like is just kind of like having conversations. Um, but obviously I want you to talk about anything you got coming up and like tell
Yeah, man.
people like where they can find you on the interwebs and like what to look for, where all of that fun stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Nominee. I'm still like, we're still active. We're still a band. We're just not incredibly active. Uh, we'll never break up. There's no, in my opinion, unless there is serious internal strife, there's no reason for a band to break up other than cash. So honestly, that was like I Call Fives still has not broken up. That band will be a band until the day all of us are dead. All of us meaning the probably 20 plus members who have been in that band. So I Call Fives, when we stopped playing shows, Drew Conti, who is kind of the guy in that band, the guy who handled all the business, was like, we are not going to break up because we're not going to close the book on this in case someone wants to make a cool offer one day. And after we stopped playing shows, we got offered Soundwave, which was the single most rewarding experience I've ever had in music. So as long as I'm friends with my people in Nominee, which they're still my best friends to this day, will never stop. And uh we are going to be releasing new music. We have no idea when, but we've got a few done, and we are just kind of trying to figure out the right place and time to do it. Everybody else is in other projects. Steve is in a band called Tied Up. They're on Instagram under Tied Up. And Andy and Cameron are both in a band called Current Comfort. It's like a metalcore band. They're fucking sick. And then Dean is playing in he's in like a crazy 90s cover band here that occupies a ton of his time. So everyone's really busy. And then me, Andy, and Steve are in a cover band as well. So like everyone is so busy. So it's hard to line it up, but we're just gonna put it so far in the future that we can kind of like wrap things around this. We just haven't figured out exactly what we want to do yet. And then I'm also in another project that I started recently with Nate from Nominee, who is the original guitarist. The reason why I like started singing for a band, I never would have tried to sing for a band if it weren't for this dude. Him and I started another project called Talk to Me. That's like much more like a world. It's more about like our collective worldview than anything else. It's pretty politically driven. But so that we're going to be releasing that fairly soon too, and that's under Talk to Me TX on Instagram.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I'll send you one of the tracks. We're really stoked.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I can't thank you enough for coming on and chatting with me. And yeah, I definitely look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, please. Absolutely. And come visit me.
Thanks again for hanging out with me here on Beyond the Static. Remember, you can follow the podcast on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and TikTok at Beyond the Static Podcast. You can also join our mailing list and have these episodes sent straight to your inbox. If you enjoyed the show and feel gracious, you can buy me a coffee. If not, a like or comment on YouTube is much appreciated. A 5-star review on any platform would be awesome, because in the words of my hero, Bomani Jones, thanks again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. And remember, I appreciate you more than you will ever know.